Country Life on Midlands 103. Brought to you by W. Orshaw, Burlington Business Park, Tullamore. Supplier of New Holland tractors in the Midlands. worshaw.ie.
Good evening and welcome to Country Life here on Midlands 103. It's Wednesday, 1st of July 2026. MJ Clery with you until 8pm. Bring you the latest from the Midlands and further afield from the worlds of agriculture, food and agri-business. Thank you all for joining me as always in what was an exceptionally quick 7 days. I can't believe it was a week since I was speaking to you all, but here we are back again and a busy lineup as always. In a moment, Jacqueline Hogg from the Irish Farmers Journal joins me to chat about potential data centre in Westmeath. More on that in just a moment. Also this evening, organic dairy farming has seen a resurgence in interest, due no doubt to the milk price being paid. Joe Kelleher from Teagasc will chat to me about upcoming open days on dairy organics, and the numbers involved will definitely surprise you when you hear what is being paid for organic milk. I only heard it yesterday and I did get a surprise, and it is, as I said, part of the reason for the resurgence in interest in this area. Fencing is something that you either love or hate. A lot leave it to contractors now, but still there are times when wire needs to be tended to, and the appropriate tools are what makes the job far easier. This weekend sees the Irish Stock Fencing Championship take place with some of the best in the business on show, including a fencing village with retail on offer. Arthur Harvey from Abbey Leaks is involved in the organising of this, and he chats to us later about what is on offer. Biomethane, something we cover regularly here on the programme, turning grass into gas. There was a conference last week on the topic, and Maurice Brady from the IFA will give us the lowdown on that and just where we are going with biomethane here and where policy is moving to. As always, text, WhatsApp the show with your comments, thoughts or questions. 083 30 10 103. Happy to put anything to our guests this evening. Now, as I said at the outset, we are starting off with farmers fighting to save land from a data centre project. Jacqueline Hogg has more on this. Jacqueline, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
Good evening, MJ. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. Jacqueline, it's actually the first time I've spoken to you here on the programme, and earlier today when I was lining you up, you were telling me you're a Galway woman, so you were in bad form after the weekend, Jacqueline.
I was indeed, MJ. Myself and my two teenagers were in Croke Park, and it was just another depressing journey back down the motorway. Yeah,
just let it slip there the last few minutes. Kind of couldn't keep the foot on the gas. It was unfortunate though, you put up a spirited display up to that.
Ari spirited now is no good. As who was it said it during the week? I think it was Pat Spillane that said, on paper we're great, but on grass it just doesn't translate. So I won't be too popular now amongst my own county men and women saying that, but you know, you can't be the nearly men.
Yeah, well, almost a farming related quote there when we're bringing grass into it. We're going to move to this, Jacqueline. It's in tomorrow's newspaper, and it's a big news story for us here in the Midlands. Can you give us a little bit of background on this, please?
Yes, and the Westmeath County Council granted planning permission there last month to Lumcloon Energy. It's Red Admiral, actually, it's a subsidiary company for a data centre and a solar farm. The solar farm will power the data centre. But the contention around it is it's on prime tillage land. It's in the Rochford Bridge area. There's about 4 or 5 townlands concerned, and the farmers I spoke with would consider it some of the best tillage land in the country, never mind the county. So they're angry that they weren't properly consulted in the run-up to this. Now, that claim has been disputed by Lumcloon, who say that they did consult with the community, and that as a result of that consultation, the plans were actually modified to alter boundary lines. But the farmers I spoke with just don't agree that this land should be a consideration for a project of this scale.
Yeah, just looking at it here, so it is a €1 billion data centre and solar farm on 600 acres of prime tillage land. So this is a huge endeavour. The company that are behind it, presumably then the idea is they will lease that on then to a tech organisation or something of that nature?
The planning application would not go into that level of detail, but the company themselves, in a statement they issued to the paper, had said that this development will be a flagship for the Midlands, and, you know, it will go a long way towards meeting the government's goals on renewables and, being able to, I suppose there's such an argument at the moment that data centres are using so much of our energy from the national grid. So the development of a solar farm to power this plant in conjunction with it would make it self-sufficient, I suppose.
Do we have any ideas on timelines in relation to this then, Jacqueline? Presumably this objection to on Commission Planola is going to stall it a little.
Yes, the deadline for submissions to on Commission Planola was Monday. So there's a group of up to 40 people in the local community. Not all farmers, just a lot of them are just very concerned about the impact this will have on their property. There's a lot of private wells in use by houses and farms in that area, and 3 different wells will have to be drilled as part of this development. So their argument is that not enough has gone into investigating the impact this will have on the homes and farms already in the area. But to answer your question, the appeals process to on Commission Planola, there's a statutory obligation that a ruling will be delivered within 18 weeks. So that's best case scenario. That would take us to the middle of November. But that if this is going to take any longer than that, then the objectors or the people who have submitted their appeal will have to be told in writing. So it could well drag into the new year. Now, I should say the farmers are very opposed to this, but there's an awful lot of people throughout Westmeath who are in favour of it. I know the council have welcomed this with open arms. Now there's a financial boon to this too. There'd be an annual rates bill of 4 million that would greatly boost the council coffers. But again, back to my farmers who I interviewed, their objection is that some things are bigger than money, and that there's quality of life and there's generation renewal, and it's hard enough to get young farmers to consider it as a career with all the competing options young people have nowadays. But their argument would be, if the land is gone to a data centre, then that's an option gone for them.
Yeah, and in writing then, Jacqueline, for Irish Country Living as part of the Farmers Journal, obviously these human interest stories are something you do week on week, and I suppose you alluded to it there, but is it something you're feeling more and more in the last few years that rural dwellers do feel they're being pushed to one side, if you will, in relation to events like this?
Absolutely. In my former life as a journalist here in County Galway, I would have covered a lot of rural community opposition to wind farms. And it's funny because it's very much set as an us and them scenario by both sides. But I think the saddest part of it all is that it's pitting these communities that have thrived for generations and have delivered so much locally, and it's literally splitting them down the middle and pitting them against each other. Because as is the case in Westmeath, this land is owned by a private individual who has every right to do what they want with the land. And they're obviously being rewarded and compensated financially for leasing the land for this development, as is their right. But unfortunately, one of the gentlemen I interviewed, Willie Carey, said, there's people that grew up together, that went to school together now in the Rochford Bridge area, who are no longer speaking to each other. And those rifts won't be healed, and it's very, very hard to find middle ground there, because the farmer whose land this is being developed on will say he's doing nothing wrong in utilising the land as he sees fit. But then you have neighbours who aren't happy with it, and it's just sad, because I've always said that the smaller the parish, the smaller the community, the greater the endeavour and the greater the goodwill and the greater the yield. I've always said that, and I'm a townie myself, so.
Isn't it an age-old issue, though, Jacqueline? Like when you're listening to a story like this is something that we've heard over and over and over again. It may have been something as simple as selling a site for a house or something off land years and years ago, or whatever the case may be. But when it comes to land, it is so pertinent to people in rural areas, and it is such a part of their existence that something like this really does. As you say, it's sad, but it really, really hits home. It hits people very hard.
It does, and especially the older generation who, they farming is not a job, it's a way of life. They're custodians of that land, and they see it as something, it's their obligation to hand that down to the next generation. Again, the younger of the two farmers I spoke with has 4 young children. He says he was previously offered rental income for solar panels, a different company, nothing connected to this development. And he said the money is very attractive. Even after tax, you'd be making money that you'd never make farming. But he doesn't want to rule out any of his 4 children wanting to follow in his footsteps. And they're all very young now. The situation could have changed drastically in 20 or 30 years. But he wants that to be an option for them.
Yeah, and I suppose when you do hear that, then you have to think there is a future out there for the young rural dweller, the young farmer, when you have people who are making those decisions, and that is heartwarming to hear. Jacqueline, look, it's a really interesting story. I'm going to say thanks a million for coming on and covering it. Now, before I let you go, we started off with football, so I want you to call now the All-Ireland for me, please. Who's going to win the football this year, do you reckon?
Oh, Kerry.
Kerry all day long.
Kerry all day long. I would love to see Louth upset the apple cart. I really would. I managed to get into the stadium for the last 15 minutes of the Monaghan game, and it would just warm your heart to see such a small county punching above its weight. But no, I have a horrible feeling now Kerry are going to take up the mantle where Dublin left off, and they're going to dominate for the next few years. I'm
going to have to agree with you on that one, Jacqueline. I'm going to say many thanks. We'll speak to you again here on the programme.
Thanks so much, MJ. Lovely to chat.
More than welcome. Jacqueline Hogg there from the Farmers Journal. Jacqueline writes in the Irish Country Living section. And just on the football, I was lucky enough to be in Croke Park myself at the weekend. As you may have heard here on the programme over the years, of a soft spot for the Mayo football team. Father was a Mayo man, and Aisling, other half, is from that part of the world, so try and get to a game or two every year if we can, and made it to the Mayo Cork game, and then thereafter it was Kerry and Tyrone, and look, I did notice a big difference in class there between the teams, and I would have to agree with Jacqueline. It's looking like it's going to be very hard, unless Dublin catch Kerry on maybe a little bit of an off day, or just get them. Dublin were strong on Sunday, but Kerry just they have such class, and the new 2-pointer rule is just so well suited to David Clifford. It's hard to see any difference. But then the semi-finals are a nice draw as well, Mayo and Louth. So whoever gets through that is going to have a day out, going to have an All-Ireland final, which you'd hope it's not a dead rubber in the final then, with the 2 strongest teams in the semi-final. Now, coming up after the break, we are going to be talking about dairy farming, but organic dairy farming, something a little bit different. It's actually something we haven't covered on the programme here in quite a while. We had covered it back in the day, and then conventional milk was making so much in the last few years that the organic farmers were feeling hard done by, and they just weren't making as much of a margin really, because conventional milk was so strong. But conventional milk has moved down the pecking order a little, and organic dairying is back now. There are 2 open days coming up in the next couple of weeks. That's what we're going to be talking about with Joe Kelleher from Teagasc in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw, family owned and serving the Midlands since 1982, we're Ireland's largest independent agri-dealer, specialising in New Holland tractors and parts. With over 40 years' experience, we provide top quality sales, service and support. Visit W.R. Shaw in Tullamore and Carlow, or online at wrshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, organic dairy farming is the topic of conversation for the next few minutes here on the programme. Joe Kelleher from Teagasc joins me. Joe, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
No problem, MJ.
Joe, I was saying to our listeners here just before the break that organic dairy farming, it might have dropped slightly in popularity for a few years, but in the last while it's regained its X factor, shall we say. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we've seen a good surge in numbers there in the last 2-3 years in numbers of dairy farmers in particular. We've probably it's a small sector. Look, there's only 80 organic dairy farmers in the country, and probably 30 of those have joined in the last 3 years. So you could say there's a bit of renewed interest, yeah.
Yeah, and usually renewed interest is as a result of the bottom line. We're all trying to make the most we can in our farm enterprises, and that's the case in dairying. It has seen a resurgence in profitability also.
Yes, yeah. So the latest, there's a group in Europe called Eurostat, and they publish figures there every second month, I think it is. And their latest figures showed that Ireland had the second highest organic milk price in Europe in March, which was about 30 cents ahead of our conventional price at the time. So that's as strong as the organic price has ever been, and it's as strong as the premium over conventional has ever been at any stage over the last 5 to 10 years. So it's a good time for farmers to look at the idea and look at the option. You never know, it might be for some.
And what price is that, Joe, roughly at the moment? What are organic farmers? I know there's bonuses and whatnot, fats and all the rest on it, but the average price?
Yeah, so that price that the Eurostat quoted was 73 cents, so that was the average price for the month of March. But when you average it out across 12 months last year, it would have been around 68 cents a litre would have been the average milk price across the 12 months. And that's ranging, so you've winter prices probably going from 75 cents up to 90, and you've summer prices going from 55 cents up to 75, so, or mid-70s anyway. So, there's a big incentive for autumn calving and producing milk over the winter with the prices of up to 90 cents available.
Yeah, and what does the landscape look like then, Joe, for possibly maybe an already organic farmer, could be maybe beef or sheep or whatever the case may be, or tillage, and he or she might look then at dairy, organic dairy farming. Like, I suppose the mechanics of getting into it, trying to get supply arrangements and agreements up and running, getting your farm set up for it, a lot, I would say, to get up and running.
For a new entrant, look, I suppose from an infrastructure point of view, you have a lot anyway, first of all, in terms of getting milking facilities and housing if they're not up to scratch, which are not cheap at the moment. Then you've the whole idea of buying the stock, which actually kind of, maybe conversely, it's easier for a conventional farmer, maybe a conventional dairy farmer to get into organic dairying than it would be for a dry stock organic farmer to get in, because your options for buying stock are quite limited. You either buy from the existing pool of stock, with only 80 organic dairy farms is limited. Some farmers are importing, but Blue Tongue has put a kind of a spanner in that works. So then you're looking at, you can get permission if you're starting out herd for the first time to buy in a whole herd of less than 6-month-old calves with the intention of calving them down kind of in 2 years. And that probably is the most realistic route for a dry stock farmer looking at getting in.
And for an existing dairy farmer then who just maybe wants to maybe take a little, not going to say a step back, you're still going to be dairy farming, but maybe if you're quite intensive in a conventional system and you want to reduce numbers slightly, are they the more likely? Are you seeing a little bit of interest from that cohort?
Yeah, that's the cohort that we see most of the interest from, is people that are, well, one of the cohorts we probably see most is there is a good cohort of farmers out there now that have reduced their reliance on chemical nitrogen over the last number of years off their own bat kind of, and they've been incorporating more and more clover into their systems and reducing the fertiliser gradually. And that is the ideal way of converting to organic dairy. And the last thing we want to see people doing is what I call the cold turkey model, where you go from spreading a heap of fertiliser one year to just pulling the plug completely overnight and eliminating it completely, because your farm is going to go into a shock in that kind of a system, especially if there isn't a lot of clover already on the farm. So a gradual phased-in introduction and a phase-out of the chemical nitrogen is the ideal transition.
For a setup then, Joe, look, we know dairy cows, especially if you're winter milking, they have a high appetite and a big energy demand. So trying to grow enough food on your farm in an organic setup, is it possible? Are you talking about having to buy in, an amount of inputs? What's the reality of it on the ground?
It is possible. I suppose you do have to reduce your stocking rate accordingly, though, because the reality is you are going to grow less than you would in a conventional setting with 250 kilos of chemical nitrogen. So the top performing organic dairy farmers would be growing somewhere in the region of 10 tonne of dry matter per hectare. That will allow them to carry a stocking rate of up against the derogation, so up to 1.7, 1.8 livestock units per hectare. On average, we would see that the average organic dairy farmer would be a bit below that at about 1.5 livestock units per hectare. So it is possible to grow at that speed. There's numerous trials out there showing that clover multi-species swards can grow anywhere between 10 and 12 tonnes of dry matter a year. Red clover silage crops can grow up to 15 tonne of dry matter a year. So, if we can incorporate lots of clovers into our system, you can carry a fairly decent stocking rate.
Yeah, we're talking then about potential supply contracts, and people will be aware of in the Midlands here, Glenisk buying organic milk. But there's a couple of more entrants into the market. I shouldn't say entrants; they're probably at it a while. But you can go with is it 3 different people, different organisations, I should say, Joe, purchasing organic milk?
So we have 3 processors in the Republic of Ireland that are actively buying milk from farmers. So you have Orivo, who typically operate in Connacht and maybe a bit of Clare, Donegal, and maybe slightly come into the Midlands a bit. Then you've Glenisk, which are in the heart of the Midlands there in Offaly, and you've the Village Dairy, who are on the Carlow Laois border, again, who are growing fairly rapidly as a company. So there's three options there. All three of them, though, will want milk on a 12-month supply basis. So they will want you to have down some element of your herd in the autumn. So that is an important consideration for people. But if you're willing to do that, look, the milk price is up to 90 cents, and it is tempting a few people to look at it.
If you're trying to keep your workload to a minimum during the winter, Joe, is there room for negotiation, shall we say, if you're going to one of these processors and you're looking to calve down a minimum amount of cows? I presume they're well used to farmers trying this.
There is room for negotiation, and the other thing that there's probably room for is the ideal of a dual supplier contracts, where you supply one of these three processors for the winter months and then you supply a conventional co-op for the summer months. Obviously, you're going to take the lower conventional price in the summer months, but if it might even avoid you having to, you might be able to still maintain a spring calving system in that scenario. You just supply the shoulders, the milk at the shoulders of the year, or you might even be able to milk away into December in a lot of cases and supply that milk to one of the organic processors and get the high price, and then just revert back to your conventional processor maybe the 1st of April kind of to the 1st of October.
In relation to margins then, Joe, say for last year, 2025, Teagasc do the income survey every year. Do they collate figures on organic dairying? Are they out there to have an idea as to what you could make per cow per year, per hectare per year?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have very limited data when it comes to the financials. Even the National Farm Survey, there is a few farmers in there, but they're just too small to be anywhere near statistically relevant. One farmer could sway the whole thing left or right. I suppose we are looking at feed costs being higher. Could be current price for organic feed is around 680 a tonne. So it's around double your conventional. So that's a key factor when you are doing your budgets. But and the counter side of that, anything from 75 cents to 90 cents is available. So the economics can stack up there when you're feeding that to get that milk price. So that's the biggest feed cost. Look, you've eliminated the fertiliser bill predominantly. Might need a bit of lime and the brown rock phosphorus and things like that. But for the main part, the conventional dairy farmer this year is going to spend around 30,000 on fertiliser, so we've almost fully eliminated that. If you have lower stock numbers, you're going to have lower vet bills, lower contractor bills, so the other variable costs can drop as well. So you have to put it all into the mix when you're doing your sums. You're going to have less milk to sell because you'll have less cow numbers. Hopefully, if you can access that premium price, you should be getting more cents per litre for that litre. So higher meal costs, reduce fertiliser costs, reduce other costs. And it's up to every farmer to do those sums. And I'm available to help any farmer that wants to make a stab at those sums. And for some, it's going to make sense, and for more, it's not. And that's all we're asking people is take a look at the sums and see, does it make sense for you? If it does, it does. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Fair enough.
In relation to organic milk on the shelf then, Joe, I don't know the answer to this, but organic milk versus conventional milk on the shelf, is there much of a price disparity between them when the consumer's purchasing them in the shop?
Yeah, a litre of organic milk has remained fairly steady for the last 18 to 24 months, I would say, at $1.49 a litre in all the main retailers, and even conventional milk will drop there. Was it after Christmas or before Christmas? I think it went from $1.24 down to $1.19 in all the retailers. And normally organic would have followed, but it was the first time ever that they left organic where it is, which means that the processors then should be able to hold the milk price where it is when the customer is still paying the same price in the shop. There has been a shortage of organic milk in the supermarket shelves, especially in the winter months. So I suppose it doesn't make sense to be dropping the price like that when there is a shortage of the product, and I think they've realised that. So it's good for the farmer that price has been held stable. So I suppose that you're talking about, my estimate is 2/3 of the milk in this country, organic milk in this country, is turned into bottled milk, and the other third is probably mostly made up of Glenisk yogurt product, which is a big seller as well.
Yeah, it's good to see that the price is held for, it is as you say, it's a more expensive product to create, and lower stocking rates and whatnot on farm. So it's nice to see that it is being held. Joe, I brought you on to talk about organic dairying because you have some farm walks coming up. You have one 7th of July and another one on the 14th of July. Can you just give us the details on those, please?
Yeah, so we've one in Clare, in East Clare on the 7th of July, which is next Tuesday. We're asking people to register beforehand, and then we'll give out the details to people once they register. And it's the same. It's in Dunlavin and Wicklow on the 14th of July. So if anyone is interested, if they even put in a quick engine search into their internet, Teagasc Organic Dairy Walks, the details will appear, and all are welcome, and we'll be going into a good bit more detail maybe on some of the stuff we just discussed there.
Yeah, very good. Well, thanks for coming on, Joe. You give us a good rundown there. And as you say, if people are interested, 2 upcoming open days there at Walks. Many thanks for joining us on the programme, Joe.
Thanks, MJ.
And Joe Kelleher there from Teagasc and our organic dairy farming. Could it be something that you would be interested in? Average milk price last year, second highest organic price in Europe, of 12-month price of just shy of 70 cent per litre. And as Joe said, look, it comes down to your own enterprise. Depends on, I suppose, what you're after really. And I suppose really just with that, look, a good chunk of land is what's needed really. Let's be honest about it, if you're going to make money at it. And those open days, as we said, 7th of July and 14th of July, one in County Clare, one in County Wicklow. And if you pop in teagasc.ie/organics, it will show up and you'll have your details on those. So possibly something for you. Now, coming up after the break, we're talking about biomethane from grass to gas. Maurice Brady is the IFA Ulster and North Leinster Regional Chair. He was at an event last week in relation to this, and he's going to share what he learned with us all. Stay tuned.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
Brought to you by W.R. Shaw, where New Holland isn't just a brand, it's our passion. For over 40 years, we've been Ireland's trusted name for New Holland tractors, parts and farm machinery. Whether you need new, used or ex-hire tractors, we've got you covered. wrshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, as I said before the break, we are moving on to biomethane, and we have Maurice Brady on the line, IFA Ulster and North Leinster Regional Chair. Maurice, I'm going to say many thanks for joining me here on the programme this evening.
Not at all, MJ. Thanks very much for inviting me on. I'm delighted to be on your farming programme.
You're more than welcome, Maurice. First time I've spoken to you here on the programme, so we might do a little bit of background on you just before we crack into talking about this. Can you tell us a bit, Maurice, about yourself and your enterprise, please?
Yeah, so I'm a suckler farmer basically in Cavan, and I would have been suckler to beef over a good number of years. And I kind of changed that enterprise around now. I'm still suckling, and I do a contract rear dairy replacement heifers as well on the farm, so farming their way in the middle of County Cavan.
Yeah, we saw a resurgence, I suppose, in suckler farming in the last maybe year and a half with the good prices, Morrison. I saw up in Grange today, lots of figures, positive figures on suckler farming. Look, I know beef price has weaned in the last couple of months, and it's not where we'd like it to be at the moment, but good to see renewed optimism in the suckler side of things.
Certainly. I mean, for years, I mean, I've been suckler farming for a long number of years now, and I mean, last year was the first year that we really did get rewarded for good quality weanlings that we're producing, and it's great to get those prices. And you know, the farmers at the other end need a decent beef price as well, and I think we've hopefully turned the corner there, MJ, that beef price maybe has turned. I've heard €7 a kilo today flat prices and that, so. Hopefully, I think it has moved on. That the market has moved on, and hopefully it'll stay positive. It's good to see a bit of positivity in it, surely. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'd always noticed the breeding, Maurice, when we head up the country, I suppose, from where we are here in the Midlands, up towards your area, and go on across into Leitrim, Roscommon, all those areas. Some great breeding in your part of the world, and people they may not have the biggest herd, but they'll put their absolute heart and soul into doing their best with the amount of stock they have.
They do. The suckler farmers the numbers wouldn't be that big. There'd be some bigger farmers surely, but they like to have good quality continental cross cattle still, and you have the good Charlie or Limousine Bull or something like that. So there's still lots of good weanlings being produced in the northern and border counties part of the country. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're speaking about now, Morris, next few moments, is the area of biomethane. Look, covered it plenty here on the programme, I suppose more so in the last couple of years than we would have ever before. But this concept of turning grass into gas, and I suppose it's something that we hear very lofty ambitions from the government in relation to it, but yet not much really happens. Obviously, there are some of these plants up and running, and I know there actually is one in Teagasc Grange. It was on offer today. You could go and you could have a look at it. But you're calling the IFA for, I suppose, more government support really to get things moving.
Yeah, certainly, and you're right about the ambition there, MJ, because the government stated ambition was to have 200 AD plants in the country, I think, by 2030. Now, there's not a hope in hell of that happening, but we're calling for 200 million to be made available from the Nature and Climate Capital Fund there to fund AD plants at farm level, really, as well as bigger scale ones as well, just to be able to use some of the products that are available on farm. In my own part of the country, in particular, there's lots of pig slurry and there's lots of cattle slurry floating around and chicken litter and that kind of thing. And I think it'd be great to see some of them taken off and using up some of those byproducts as it were.
Yeah, and that is a good point you make, because I suppose sometimes when farmers hear about these AD plants and they hear about grass silage going into them, they scratch their head and they say that, look, we're highly stocked, there's not a huge amount of excess silage or grass as it is, and if we create all these AD plants, then we're going to be in trouble. But the point you're making about be it chicken or pig or any of these intensive production units, it can be a very good use for this slurry.
Well, it should be. I mean, the technology should have moved on. I think it has moved on, and it's there now. Like in Cavan and Monaghan, there's an awful lot of pig slurry and chicken litter, and it'd be great to get it used up and maybe turn it into energy as well. So there's a job of work to be done there. The government has an ambition, and we're saying you need to back that up now with finance and with action, and we'll see where it goes.
I suppose that's the question, though, Morris. They need to do it, but will they do it?
I think so. I think it's their stated ambition, and look, we're in our second energy crisis now in 5 years, which is hard to believe. And the price of fuel and the price of everything were important. I think it makes sense for to be able to produce as much energy as we can on farm, and whether that's through AD or whether that's through solar or whatever. I think it's a win-win, and they have to get to grips with it at this stage.
So as we're talking about renewables and we talk about them regularly, Morrison, it is something. Look, we did a piece here at the start of the hour about a big plant in County Westmeath. Now it's a data centre. It's kind of different, but there's a solar farm on the side of it, and it's on hundreds and hundreds of acres. But this whole concept of, I suppose, differing structures, if you will, on agri farmland now up and down the country, it's just something we're going to have to get used to. Like it's not going to change.
No, I think there's room for every kind of renewables, and whether it's a solar farm, which can be contentious in some areas, certainly I accept that. My point around it is, I think there's more than enough roof space on farms and on factories and on government buildings and everywhere else that we should have enough, be able to create enough solar energy that way. But there's an awful lot of dots there that still need to be joined up, and as I say, the fact that we've been in our second energy crisis now in 5 years should get people to realise that we need to go down this road pretty fast.
Yeah, it's a real shame, or as I mentioned here in the programme a couple of times, with the solar TAMS funding for farmers in the last few years. It was such a great initiative, and something that really was just working well, and then unfortunately funding gets absolutely slashed for it.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I was just going to make that point because with government ambition, as I say, there was a great grant aid there of up to 60%. I think it was for solar, and that's 9 out of 10 applicants now are being refused. So 90% rejection rate under TAMS. So the need to step up here and either fill up that TAMS fund again or have some other level of funding, because it's not going to work without decent funding. The farmers that got TAMS and got solar were very happy with it, and it was just, I think, in a good place and ready to take off. But then funding slashed, and just hard to understand.
Absolutely. Morris, I'm going to say many thanks for joining me here on the programme this evening. Give us a rundown on that. No doubt we'll be speaking to you again in the future. Morris, many thanks for joining me here on Country Life.
Not at all. It's an absolute pleasure, MJ, anytime. Thanks very much.
Maurice Brady there from the IFA. Maurice is the Ulster and North Leinster Regional Chair. More funding he's calling for both AD and indeed TAMS. I think TAMS is a big bugbear of mine. The fact that the TAMS funding has been cut for solar. It was such a good initiative, and as Maurice said quite rightly, there's so much roof space all over the country just ready to go for solar panels, and here we are in a position where we're trying to make agriculture as green as possible and sustainable as possible, and then funding gets absolutely slashed for that. As Maurice said, 90% chance that you won't get TAMS funding now if you put in for solar. And to be honest, there's so much work in putting in for it that if there was a 90% chance you wouldn't get it, I can't see any farmer doing it. If there was a 90% chance you would get it, you'd probably still scratch your head a little bit with the paper trail there is when you go for any of those TAMS fundings, but definitively not when you're almost sure you're not going to get it. Before I go to an ad break, just having a look here at the Farmers Journal tomorrow, it popped into me, and I see that the headline tomorrow is coupled payments on the table. Who would have thought it after all the years ago of decoupling? Minister Hayden has signalled that coupled payments could return in the next cap. Coupled supports may help protect vulnerable sectors such as beef, sheep and tillage, and he also pushed back against proposed cap budget cuts of 24%. So this whole concept of the active farmer, and if you're farming, if you have stock, seems to be where the negotiations are going in relation to cap. Now we're still a long way out from it, but that seems to be what we're looking at the moment. Also coming from Grange, top suckler farms deliver a net margin of €1,580 per hectare. And that also came out from the Teagasc budgeting today, that a suckler cow, well, on their suckler cows, can cost up to €1,000 to keep per annum. I always used to hear it was a figure of €700 per year for a suckler cow, but obviously things have gone up dramatically in the last while, so may not be that figure on your farm, of course, but that's the figure they're coming out with today. And also good news on this, EU doubles down on Brazilian beef ban. So the EU remains on track to ban Brazilian beef imports from the 3rd of September. So this is good news. This is what we want, and we want to ensure that this occurs 8 weeks ago on this. So Brazilian beef not going to be allowed into the EU from the 3rd of September, and that's still the news. Lastly, tillage sector seeks 100 million in budget support. So tillage sector looking for further support in the upcoming budget also. Now, after the break, we're going to be talking about fencing. Do you enjoy fencing? Do you not like it? Do you get a contractor to do it all for you? Still, there's times where you have to go out and do a little bit yourself. So is there anything you can learn at the Irish Stock Fencing Championship in 2026? Abbey Leaks man Arthur Harvey is going to tell us all in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw. Looking for the best in farm machinery? We've been supplying top quality New Holland tractors and parts and providing service since 1982. Our expert team is here to keep your farm running smoothly, with branches in Tullamore and Carlow. Visit wrshaw.ie today.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here in Midlands 103. Now, stock fencing is what we're talking about with leashman Arthur Harvey. Arthur, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
Lovely to talk to you, MJ. Good to chat to you. You're
more than welcome. Irish Stock Fencing Championship 2026 taking place 5th of July, Clonmel Show, Power Zone Park in Clonmel. Tell us about this, Arthur. Stock Fencing Championship. What's it about?
Well, it probably sounds a bit of a strange thing to be talking about. We're doing that sort of work on a Sunday. This is the 5th incarnation of this particular show, and basically it's an international competition this year. It's showing off the best practice of how fencing contractors do their jobs, and this is what's going to be on display down there. It is an actual competition. There will be 4 international teams. One of the teams is made up of Rory Sampson and his brother Duncan, and they're the Scottish champions. Them boys are heading for, or they're looking for the Triple Crown. They're hoping to win the Welsh and the English one as well in Melbourne. Melbourne takes place on the 28th of July. So this is the best practice day to show off to farmers the skills, the tips, the tricks of fencing, and it's a competition a bit like the clown match amongst fencers to see who's the best of the best, and the best of the best will be on display.
Yeah, let's talk about the competition itself for a moment, Arthur. So the teams go head to head. What do they have to fence in what space of time, and what equipment are they allowed to use?
Okay, well, so the equipment is basic. Any hand tool. They can't use post drivers, tractor post drivers, anything like that. So everything is hand tools. You will see them using augers to drill out the holes. You will see them using chainsaws. You'll see them using skill saws and everything else in between. It's a 30 to 35 metre fence. We just have to see how much ground we have available to us in Clonmel. So it's a 30 to 35 metre long stretch. It'll have strainer at either end with a 15 to 20 degree kink in the fence. So they'll have to put in a turning post as well. They will have to put up sheep wire, they'll have to put up barbed wire, and they'll have to put up electric wire, all to a specific set of instructions. There'll be a ground wire on it as well, 50 mils off the ground. Sheep wire starts off to 50 mils above that. And then the electric, and then the barbed wire is another 50 off of that, and the electric wire on top of that would be 100 mil off the top of that one as well, and then there's 100 mil to be left over the stakes. So it's all done by hand. Everything is the holes are augured for the strainers. They will put in the props. They'll put in breastboards on the bottom of the strainers to stop them from turning, and they'll have to leave all that work open to show how they've done it. They'll have to work up the measurements then to get the stakes the right height over the ground, and they'll have to have everything plumb. They'll come on then, and they'll tie on their ground wires from the strainers up along, and that'll give them their line then to work off of. And then they'll have to break down the measurements between the strainers and put in their intermediate posts at up to a maximum of 4 metres apart. Now this year we're using eye posts belonging to Tornado. The brand new stake to the market came out last year. They debuted in Ireland last year at the show in Clonmel, and they've been very successful. But they're incorporated now into the fencing championships as well. So there'll be 2 steel posts used as well. So they'll have 3 intermediate timber stakes and 2 intermediate steel posts to use. And the competition itself will run for the pros for about 3 hours, and the novice competition will run for about 2 hours, MJ.
Yeah, very well explained, Andrew. I understand exactly what you're talking about now. And I suppose for spectators then who will pop down to this, there is a retail village then you can go in, you can have a look at their wares. I suppose if I was going, I'd maybe have a look at the guys at the start, pop to the retail village, then come back, and then you're kind of going to get a good idea of the entire event. Well, yeah, we're delighted to have people coming on board and seeing how this show has progressed over the 5 years to get it to the standard where we are. And we have a wide selection of stuff coming down. We have Brendan Fencing, they're bringing down post drivers to display on the day. I think there's a track post driver coming down. We have Irish Wire Products who deal all things wire, so if you have any needs for wire, they can give you an explanation of what they have. We also have a new company coming this year too, with NGP, Next Generation of Plastics. And these guys are selling plastic posts and plastic post and rail. So it's something different. It's everybody's on about the environment and so forth and this, that and the other. So this is a new product coming out. I'm actually looking forward to having a chat with them themselves. We of course have Clipex fencing coming down. They're bringing down other stuff apart from fencing, but they are bringing their fencing systems down as well. A lot of people might be used to the Clipex system, a very good system itself. I've used them here on my own farm. They have Keith is coming down to give us an explanation and a chat about them. We also have Goody Engineering and Keelan Engineering. Both of these companies will make your life easier with products that they're selling to help unroll the larger rolls of sheep wire and horse wire that's used now on farms up and down the length and breadth of the country. So they're coming as well. So we have a wide and varied range on hand. We will also have somebody there from Woodford Timber Products. They're supplying the stakes on the day for the competition, so they'll be used as well with the eye post, the steel eye post. So yeah, and then of course you have Tornado itself, who are specialists in wire, all things wire. So you can come in, you can have a chat, see what's going on with them, and then you can look at their product when it's actually up and finished on the stand later on. So yeah, for somebody going down to look at it, you have that wide range of fencing village knowledge there on hand. You can come over and spend 10 or 15 minutes with us. You obviously won't be able to talk to the lads when they're doing the competition, but we will have 6 judges on hand on the day as well. Most of them are former fencing 1-5s, we'll call it, in the country. A lot of experience on tap there. So like if you have questions on fencing, they'll certainly ask them, and they'll be only willing to part with the information. Yeah, well, my last question in relation to it all, Arthur, is for someone who, look, like yourself, look, you know a lot about this area. It's your passion when we're speaking to you about it, and you've been fencing for years and years. For farmers out there that aren't professional but may get a contractor in to do their fencing, but here and there they have to go out and do a bit of fencing themselves because they've no choice. It might be a Sunday or a Monday evening or whatever. They can't get someone, or it's a small job. Is there any piece of advice you could give a farmer? Is there anything you maybe see them doing wrong over and over again, or maybe a tool you could use that could make your life easier, or just something, little nugget for people that could help them on their fencing journey?
Well, the first and foremost thing is it's the age-old problem, is safety. Safety of what you're doing. So safety glasses and gloves would be the number one thing I would say. Start with that. Fencing tools, yes, there's so many different things on the market that can make life easy. I suppose in the last number of years, the gripple tool for tension and wire and the use of the gripples. That particular tool has been groundbreaking as regards tensioning up wire, and then you can use the gripple tool to tension with the T-clips, and there's also a gripple that you can use for barbed wire. So those particular things would be some of the first things I'd be looking at. If you have a little bit more time, you can get into post drivers. Obviously, there's the petrol-driven post drivers. You'll be using those. And then you're down into steel stakes. They're quicker to put in. It takes less manpower to put them in, depending on how big or small the job is. Get familiar with the gripple tool first, I would say. That's the number one priority. That's the quickest way to join wire, it's the quickest way to tension wire, and it's a safe tool to use because all of those particular tools are torqued. You can't do any harm with those.
Yeah, very good. Arthur, I'm going to say many thanks for joining me here on the programme. It's the Irish Stock Fencing Championship 2026, taking place 5th of July down in Clonmel. Around what time does it start, Arthur?
We'll be kicking off, hopefully. The big chat will be starting about 10:30 for rules and regulations for the competitors. You'll see them all there. They'll have to pull their lanes to see which lane they're getting. And hopefully the competition for the pros will start at about 11, run for 3 hours, and then the novice section, which will include a ladies team, Karen Moynihan and Chloe Dennehy. If anyone's interested, Karen Moynihan is on TikTok and YouTube. She'll be up at it. She's actually taking part herself and Chloe Dennehy. That competition will start at 12. Hopefully both competitions should be finished again too, and we'll get the judging done as quickly as we can and announce the winners of the international, the Irish champions and the novice champions on the day.
Very good. Well, many thanks for joining us this evening, Arthur. I really enjoyed the chat. We'll chat to you again. Arthur Harvey there, Irish Stock Fencing Championship 2026. And thanks to Arthur for coming on and giving us a great rundown there, I have to say, on what's a really interesting event. And Arthur's piece of advice there is the gripple tool. I remember years ago, the gripple itself, I suppose, before the tool came out, just the simple gripple for the electric fence wire was groundbreaking. I was never able to tie sheep wire or to tie plain wire, and when you had your gripple then it was just so straightforward to do it, and look how the inventions have come on ever since. Now that's it for this evening's programme. Many thanks to everybody here who joined me this evening. Jacqueline Hogg at the start of the programme, we had Joe Kelleher there from Teagasc, Maurice Brady from the IFA, and Arthur Harvey there from the Stock Fencing Championship. Show is repeated on Sunday morning at 7 a.m. through to 8 a.m. I'll be back with you in 7 days time as always here on Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. and we will speak to you all in a week's time. If you want to get us wherever you get your podcast, type in MJ space Clery, Clery, and we will pop up. You can listen at your leisure. Good evening.